In April 2026, Australia unveiled its latest National Defence Strategy, a document which confirmed accelerated plans to withdraw the Australian Defence Force's Tiger armed reconnaissance helicopter fleet before the end of the year. This is actually 1 to 2 years ahead of schedule. So why the early retirement? Well, in this video we take a look at the reasons, but we'll also examine the helicopter's full story with the ADF. So let's get started. Starting right from the beginning, a request for tender was released in December 2000 for the military's Air 87 project. This project's goal was to replace the UH-1H Iroquois gunship Bushranger and OH-58 Kiowa reconnaissance helicopters. According to Australia Defence magazine, the 4 shortlisted contenders for Air 87 were as follows: the AH-64D Apache, the A129 Scorpion, the ARH-1Z, and finally the Tiger. After evaluating these bids, the Department of Defence signed a contract with Eurocopter International Pacific, now Airbus, in December 2001 for the acquisition of 22 Tigers. The acquisition cost for these 22 choppers was $1.1 billion, and this was paired with a contract for through-life support at a cost of $397 million, with all of these figures being 2001 prices. The first 4 aircraft were manufactured in and delivered from France, while the remaining 18 aircraft, or should we say aircraft components, were manufactured in France but then assembled in Brisbane. In December 2004, the very first 2 aircraft were delivered, and such deliveries would run until December 2011, when the final chopper was handed over at the Australian Aerospace Final Assembly Plant at Brisbane Airport. Unfortunately, problems with these helicopters would appear right from the first arrival. Per a 2006 audit report, the Defence Department had intended that the helicopter acquisition was to be an off-the-shelf delivery of proven operational technology, lowering the risk of schedule, cost and performance shortfalls. However, in reality, it was a more developmental program for the ADF, and this was said to have resulted in heightened exposure to schedule, cost and capability risks, both for acquisition of the capability and delivery of through-life support services. It was added that the lack of operational experience in maintaining this capability in other forces meant that original cost estimates associated with the through-life support were immature and exposed defence to significant future budgetary risks. The 2006 audit report stated that 12 months after accepting the first 2 production aircraft, the ADF did not have an effective Tiger ARH capability and had a limited ability to train aircrews. It was added that at the time of delivery, those first 2 choppers were deemed unfit for purpose against all the contracted requirements. It was the same case for the 5th helicopter delivered as well. The 3rd aircraft delivered was also said to have configuration deficiencies, and that these included capabilities associated with a long list of items, including maximum weight, weapons operability, navigation system operability for instrument-rated flight conditions, software integration, an emergency locator beacon, a compliant voice flight data recorder operable in high-G environments, proven crash resistance, an ability to undertake protracted flight over water for the first 2 aircraft, an operable ground management system to task and communicate with the aircraft, and finally, the required spares and support and test equipment. About 10 years later, another audit report was quoted as saying, "The Tiger helicopter fleet has not yet delivered the original capability expected by the Australian government, and continues to experience higher than expected sustainment costs and lower than expected aircraft availability." It was added that the Chief of Army had declared final operational capability for the Tiger on April 14, 2016, allowing the helicopter to be operationally employed. However, the declaration was 7 years later than planned and had to be accompanied by 9 operational caveats. Indeed, it was noted that Tiger had 76 capability deficiencies relating to Army's current and future operational requirements, 60 of which were deemed by the Department of Defence to be critical. Other key limitations involved shipborne operations, pilot flying hours, interoperability and communications, airworthiness, and the roof-mounted sight. There's some doubt about these 76 capability deficiencies. We'll get to that shortly. But to wrap up some of the key points of the 2016 audit, the report then said, as at June 2016, the cost per flying hour for the Tiger fleet was $30,335 compared to a target of $20,000. The long-term average was $39,472 per hour. On average, only 3.5 aircraft of the operational fleet of 16 aircraft were serviceable at 10 a.m. on any given day in 2015, against a target of 12 aircraft. As we stated earlier in this video, one of the key conclusions of the audit was that an off-the-shelf solution was expected, but the helicopter was more in its developmental phase when it first entered service. This foundational fact explains all the issues and why it took such a long time for the platform to mature and get closer to target availability rates. Now, despite the low availability rates and various stated deficiencies, Australian Defence magazine offered a different perspective in 2018, noting that despite all the issues, anecdotal reports indicated that members of the Army were actually happy with the chopper's capabilities when it was operational. The media outlet goes on to suggest that positive news and sentiments related to the Tiger had been suppressed over the years in favour of a more pessimistic and critical view promoted by Defence Department officials. Indeed, the 2016 audit we shared earlier was thought by some to be a quote-unquote hatchet job against the Tiger. Australian Defence magazine's article titled "Who is Killing Tiger?" says that those aforementioned 76 deficiencies were actually capabilities not specified in the original ARH requirements, but later became upgrade opportunities along the way. The article doesn't name anyone specifically as being responsible for killing the Tiger, but it somewhat implied that the helicopter was never given a fair chance before officials decided to retire it early, with an initial date being 2025. But by 2016 it was indeed decided that a planned replacement of the Tiger fleet should be undertaken in the mid-2020s. And so all the information we've shared with you in the past few minutes answers the big question in our video as to why Australia has decided to retire its Tigers early, with the arrival of replacement choppers fully enabling the move. On the topic of replacements, the project to acquire substitute helicopters went, or goes, by the name Land 4503 Phase 1. It's a project that saw a three-way race between the Bell AH-1Z Viper, Boeing's AH-64E Guardian Apache, and a significantly upgraded Tiger ARH offered by Airbus Helicopters. And so it was in 2021 that the decision was made to acquire 29 AH-64E Apache helicopters to replace the ARH Tiger at a total cost of about 5.5 billion Australian dollars. The aircraft and supporting systems acquired through foreign military sales arrangements with the United States government included ground support equipment, communications and sensor systems, information and communications technology, training systems, weapons and ammunition, support services, and supply parts and spares. And so the first of these 29 Apaches arrived in 2025, and by May 2026, the fleet had grown to 6, with all 29 aircraft expected to be delivered by 2029. So what can we make of all this? Well, the non-conspiratorial part makes a lot of sense to us, especially after seeing Australia's experience with the NH90/MRH Taipan. The helicopter in its earliest years of service was indeed more developmental than it was a mature platform. As such, maintainers had to endure chronic low parts availability and high maintenance burdens. Again, just like the NH90. And just like the Taipan, very few countries in those early years of operations had experience with the Tiger. Thus, a small size of the international fleet created a niche capability with the associated challenges of sustaining the aircraft within a limited supply chain. But what do you think of the Tiger's time with the Australian Defence Forces? Let us know by leaving a comment.